Morning all. It's 6:45 in the morning on a sunny Sunday morning in May. It's the 8th of May, and I thought you might like a walk around the garden. We haven't done one for ages, and I'll show you what we're up to and what we've got growing. It's a really lovely time of year, and the light is astonishing. It's the time of year that makes me remember why I like to do this job. I'm a flower farmer, by the way, in case you haven't come across me before, and that's the job. Come on, let's go and have a look. So this patch is called the Pitch by Yard, for the name of the sports field at my husband's school. Weird, true. And we grow annuals and things that only last for a short period of time here. So I've got lots of annuals coming. Here's some nigella, and that's self-sown from last year. And the purple in there will be those wonderful tall red plants with amazing seed heads. My mother calls it New Zealand dock. I call it red orac. And then budding up here is the purple sweet rocket. And there's one sweet rocket plant there, Rogue, which has got onto that bed and is flowering much further ahead. Then there's lots of Sweet William there. And if we go round, you'll see here are my demo roses, which I have here because they're close to the studio. And then if I have to quickly do a demo, I can come and get some for the demo. We're beginning to dig up the tulips, slowly. They've been amazing, but as is always the case for tulips, they all come at the same time, no matter how I plant them, and you end up with a bit of wastage. There's lovely, this is Black Hero. She's really stunning. It's Black Hero. I wouldn't be without this one. This was recommended me by Anna Pavord when she did a story on us years ago for the Independent newspaper, and I've grown it ever since. Anyway, soon all the tulip beds will look like this, and we will refill with dahlias and annuals. The foxgloves are budding up any minute now. They're poisonous, of course, and so I wouldn't sell them if I thought children were going to play with them. I wouldn't put them in children's bridesmaids' posies, but they're very popular for floral design work, so I grow them. You've got to grow what you love, and I love foxgloves. So it's a bit higgledy-piggledy, but you can see the little seedlings are going in the gaps, and so it will be all summer long. I plant out when things are really quite tiny. These are poppies, which I tray sow so that I know what I've got. They would prefer really to be sown direct in the soil, but because I've got them in a tray, I know how many I've got, and it is sort of more controlled for me. So look how tiny they are. They're going to need a lot of watering. It's been really, really dry for April. We had a very dry April, and now we're having a hot, dry May. You can see I planted small clumps, and then I hammer them, and it works very well for me. No two flower farmers grow the same way. They shouldn't feel they have to. I feel there's a whole lot of pressure for people to behave in a certain way in order to then qualify in some way to be a flower farmer. I think that's grossly unfair, and I think sometimes flower farms are really micro businesses, and they should be respected as such. People shouldn't have to feel they have to earn hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in order to prove anything. They can be very modest in their ambitions, because it's not necessarily about making large sums of money. It's about making a living, and your living might be modest. Like my sweet peas down here, which are doing what they always do. You plant them out and then they sulk for 3 weeks. So we're almost at the end of the sulking patch. I'd like them to pull themselves together now. Do you remember I direct sowed some seeds the other day? Well, here they come. It's a bit patchy. This is one of the reasons I don't like direct sowing especially. they're there, but it's too much of a fiddle. I won't do it again, I think. Right, here's Polytunnel 1, the small tunnel, and it's my first sweet pea crop, and they're really slow. And I will admit to you why they're really slow. I took my eye off the ball in the winter. I was rewriting my book, The Flower Farmer's Year, to have a new edition, and I haven't finished it. And it really is very exhausting writing books. You've got to really cheer on the book writers, because it is a very long and extremely tiring business. Anyway, I put my sweet peas in, and I kind of forgot about them. I didn't forget about them, but I left them to it, and they got very dry. They've recovered all right, and they'll be fine, but I didn't water them enough. And so now they're slow. They'll get there, but that's the thing. You have to choose when you're flower farming where you're going to make a living. And I could make a great deal more money from bunches of sweet peas sold even in a barrow by my gate than I will even with a very successful book. Books do not make you, unless you sell hundreds of thousands of copies, you don't do brilliantly well from books. It's anyway, whinging. I'm not whinging, and I must finish it, and I will redo it. But it's obviously not necessarily today. Right now it's the summer season, and I'm looking forward to these honesty plants, which I have been cutting, giving me lots of seed heads for my Christmas decorations. Here, look, you can see them coming. That's there. They will be silvery seed heads to go in my Christmas wreaths quite soon. And my friend Sarah Beanie, who lives in the village, who I did flowers for last autumn, and I was doing them on here, wants some seed, because she had seed heads for her Christmas decorations that I did, and she would like to have them so she can sow them in her own garden so that she can grow them as well. Down here, it's very untidy in here, I'm afraid, but down here are dahlia cuttings. They've taken really well, the dahlia cuttings. I'm really pleased with them. And more dahlia cuttings up here, some ordered in and some grown by me. We have no frost forecast for 2 weeks, so I might take them outside because they're getting a bit overwhelmed in here. And the big polytunnel is at the taller than me phase. It'll flower in a minute. Those big leaves on the right are Levatera, lots of larkspur, very tall ammy, and coming through Baplurum on my left here. And we'll have larkspur in, oh look, here comes the larkspur, any minute. And again, so this is looking good. I didn't have brilliant ranunculus this year, and it was entirely my fault. It was because I was rewriting that blimming book. And again, I took my eye off the ball. You got to decide. You cannot do everything in life. You really can't. And so I didn't finish the book, and I let my ranunculus and my sweet pea crop not have a successful time. And so I've lost, it's been rubbish for both. More fool me. I'm old enough to know better. And then along here, my potting benches, seedlings, which are just fattening up for planting out. Here's an interesting thing. Here, helichrysum. Look, tiny little seedlings pinging up. These were in my polytunnel for about a month, and they refused to germinate because it was too hot for them. And so I brought them out here, and they're germinating slowly. Same here with the Japanese, what are they called? Chrysanthemums. It's interesting. Look, they're all pinging up. These ones too were in the polytunnel for a month and refused to germinate. I brought them out into the fresh air, and here come the bells of Ireland. So if your seeds don't behave in a way that you want them to, give them a different environment. Quite often it works. Here are the bulb beds, And the narcissi on my left are going over. And look, I just let the grass grow over the bed. There are all sorts of bits and pieces in there. There's some feverfew, and there's some, the pink is campion. But really it's my narcissi beds. And they have been really good this year. Tucked inside this little silver scilla, very useful. I'll cut quite a lot of that. I've got a white event at the end of this week, and all the rest of the silver scilla will be used there. And there's the gilly orchard at the end here. It's very, very pretty with the buttercups just coming. The wire I've just gone through is to keep the deer out. Sort of works. And so here in this bed, I love this bed. It's always full of interesting bits and pieces. But the perennial phlox is just fattening up and taking over where there have been bulbs. There's this lovely silver scilla all the way along here. And then these are wild bluebells, which I grow in a bed. And they're very, very successful for detail in the spring. And then let's go and look at the other end of the big tunnel. Yes, lots and lots more dahlias. Look, you can see this one got nipped. Even though it was in the tunnel, the frost nipped it. But it's all right. But I really need to get them outside now because they're being overwhelmed by what's going on in here. That's a good job for today, to get everything out. They're nearly all sprouted. Nearly all. But they definitely could do with the water. And they could do with going outside. Right. And then round the corner we come. And soon you will see, here comes the meadow. And I love the way Fabrizio has fenced it in case any of us were daring enough to actually stand on the meadow. He holds perennial wildflower meadow workshops in June. So if you're local, do book a place. Or if you can get here to southeast Somerset, you can book a place and he'll tell you how he makes this meadow. It's beginning. It is really, we are a long way off its huge, glorious moment. But there are many, many orchids. If I just put my, can you see all the lots and lots and lots of different varieties? All the different leaves that you see are different kinds of plants. And soon they will all be up. And if I look on the other side, it's quite niche, but it is quite exciting. Yes, it is. I promise you. So here we have this hilarious row of sort of giant step-over crab apples. And Fabrizio cut all the tops off it last week so that I could use the bits for the wedding we did. You can click back to my last clip to see the wedding. And the idea is that, I'll go around the corner, dun, 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 quickety quick. He's going to make a second row of arches. And so this is going to become a crabapple trellis. It is. He's very, it's his thing. It's as tall as my shoulder. So it's not really a step over, but it makes a nice, it's looking attractive from a distance. This is campion, and I cut it a lot. But it's quite often full of black fly, like you can see here. It is a great compliment if your garden is full of black fly, because then your garden will be full of birds and ladybirds who will come along to eat the black fly. You need a banquet for the wildlife to come, or they won't. And this is a shady bed filled with all sorts of shade-loving plants, but at this time of year, the Telema grandiflora, this lovely tall white spike, is fantastic for detail in bouquets. And again, next weekend I have a white event with white flowers, and they're going to look very beautiful in the mix. Maybe quite niche thrills, but here's foliage. More niche thrills. Look, the hawthorn is out, so we can officially take a layer off. Do you know that saying? Ne'er cast a clout till the May is out. Well, I think we can say that the May is out, don't you? Very beautiful. Oh yes, very, very beautiful. And so is most of the other foliage, including my favourite dark red Physocarpus. Here the peonies are budding up. Not by any means ready to cut. I'm hoping in a fortnight for a wedding in a fortnight. But look, if you have ants working your peonies, then what they're doing is they're working it for the sugar in the sap, but by taking the sugar off these outer leaves, then that encourages the green outer casing of the flower to open up, and then you'll have the flower. But these are still rock solid. You wouldn't cut them. Fabrizio's been prepping the dahlia beds. This is the last year the dahlias are going down here. And then there's going to be a big change around. Oh yes, there is. And there's our common fan flower shed that we had for a show garden we did years and years and years ago, when we got our first proper bit of press from Sarah Raven in the Telegraph newspaper. And afterwards the shed came back here. I need to cut the foliage away so we can see it. Even a distant polytunnel looks quite attractive in this morning light. What's through here? Well, here is a tumbledown building in the middle of the patch. It has never had planning permission. So we are finally putting into planning permission to put a lid on it. And this is where the business will be based once we've made it good. At the moment, well, it's very ugly and it's pointless and it's just sitting there. But if we are allowed to put a lid on it, then the business can be in the middle of the cut flower patch, which will mean I walk less, but it'll also make the business hold the place together. Focus. It's very, very untidy, the way that the common farm flowers has evolved over the past 12 years. And it's very space wasting. We had no idea the business was going to take off or work. But it did take off and it has worked. Thank you. And so now I've been squirreling away my pennies, and that is project 976,463 here at Common Farm. Isn't it ugly? But we can make it very beautiful, and otherwise it's a waste sitting there. And I just want to put a lid on it and then get the business away from the house, so that the children don't spend their time fighting. You know, we're not mixed up together. It's clearer delineation of what's going on. And here we are up at the lady smock. Strong defences against the deer. And the alliums are all flowering. Splashes of purple. The roses are budding up. The roses bud up at this time of year, and then I start to panic in case we have a late frost. And we have had late frosts. Oh yes, we have. And because we've had this very early spring, the blue things there are water containers, by the way. We've had this very early spring and it's been very dry. Look, green fly. Don't panic. Somewhere nearby there will be a ladybird. And if you don't have the green fly, you can't have the ladybirds, Because without the green fly, what will the ladybird eat? They'll go and find somebody else's garden. Slowly, slowly, I think another couple of weeks before we had roses. Anyway, there we are. There is common farm flowers on this sunny May morning. You can see there's the falling down barn in the middle of the patch. And the first patch we looked at is just the other side of it. It would kind of make sense. And then I could bring all the cut flower patches into one. It would be logistically sensible for me. And we'd probably have more room for planting more orchards. And in life, you can't have too many orchards, I think. There, can you see the first patch we looked at this morning, just through the gap, where you can see a tiny splash of green mesh? I want to join the patch up. There's the falling down barn in the middle. Make that the office and the studio where I can do my teaching. And then there is the big patch up at the top. And all this space in the middle could then become better used. It just would make sense, really, I think. It's even got its own entrance to the lane here, where the old truck is. So, you know, project, project, project. We wouldn't want to be bored. It does look pretty as you walk around early in the morning. I think it's time for some coffee now, don't you? It's Sunday morning, so definitely mainlining coffee. And then I have a hot date with my friend Helen, making little films about the village Queen's Jubilee party. Because here in sunny Somerset, we take the Queen's Jubilee party very seriously. So there we have it. In the distance, a low door in the wall. I love a low door in a wall, full of excitement and promise and potential adventure. The flowers in the field, the trees all coming out, and the birds chatting. Have a lovely day, everybody. So there you go, a little tour of the flower farm on a 8th of May. It's looking very nice. It's that sort of time of year where there's a sort of week where it looks really tidy and sort of organised in the year, and this is about it. It will get completely out of control shortly, but I'll do my best to hold on to it. It is beautiful. I've had a hilarious time talking to Emma Barnett, who is the presenter of Woman's Hour, which is a programme on BBC Radio 4. And Millie Proust and I were invited on to talk about, you know, the enthusiasm, growing enthusiasm among the general public for growing flowers, how good they are for the environment, how they're good for micro businesses, how it's a great way for people to farm their gardens and possibly make a modest living from home, or, you know, you can scale it up and make a huge living if you want to. Anyway, that's why we were invited on. And Emma Barnett said that she hates cut flowers and doesn't want to have them in her house. She finds them really irritating and boring, which was not what Millie or I thought we were going to talk about. Anyway, it's become a bit of a thing. It's been quite an exciting week as a result of it. So it's very nice for me to just walk around the garden and kind of replace myself in it and remind myself why I'm here and what I'm doing, and shut out the noise and the chat and the indignation and the defensiveness and the... Anyway, if you've enjoyed this clip, please do subscribe to the channel. You can click the bell icon and we'll tell you when we've got new clips coming up. And if anything I've said along the way has been helpful, you can always buy me a coffee, and the link is in the blurbs to all my clips. Thank you very much. Have a lovely Sunday, everybody, and I will see you soon. Bye.